which today everybody calls around the holidays. He was a person that people could call and say, "I need your help," and he loved people. He was, even though he wasn't officially a chef, he was like today. I think of chefs as the most nurturing people, whether they're men or women. They're all like mothers, and I think James Beard was very much like that as well.
So he was a very special celebrity in a way because he had status, but at the same time he was available to people he worked with. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Some people will say, why did this man who was considered the godfather of American cuisine by, Alice Waters and Wolfgang Puck and, just great chefs who were friends and mentored by him. Julia Child loved him as well, and I'll tell you a story about her in a moment. Why was he, so well loved? I think it was partly because he had such a joy for life. He was somebody who really understood that commonality, that, that more can happen over coffee and food or around a dining table than around a conference table. He really understood that and practiced what he always preached. He'd say, food is our common ground. And he really, he lived that every day.
And so he was friends with Julia Child.
Yes. So, everybody knows about Julia Child from, all the biographies and movies about her life. She's over in France, in Paris. She's writing this book, Mastering the Art of French Cooking. Her editor, they're bringing her to the United States to, make a big splash with her cookbook. And Judith Jones, her editor, asks her, who do you want to meet? We're going to be in New York City. And she said, I want to meet James Beard. So they made that, he was one of the first people she met with, and they became fast friends, really, developed a long time friendship and respect for each other. They, then spent some summers. They would go out to Gearhart, which is a summer area, country home that he loved out west, and he would bring his friends out there every summer and teach some cooking courses out there as well.
And you said that, for him it was important that American cuisine came to itself somehow, but he was also very much passionate about France, right? So how did he negotiate these two passions, these two?
Well, I think James Beard really appreciated all kinds of ethnic cuisine. I mean, he loved Chinese, he loved everything, Italian. I think what he did was he recognized that this new country, not so new anymore, but newer than most of Europe anyway, that we had a melting pot culture, and he would celebrate the fact that he wanted to know everything there was to know about how all the immigrants who came to this country were cooking, and that really this blended ethnicity in the United States was really what American cooking was all about. But I think what he most is known for is the fact that he celebrated that fresh American ingredients, whatever region of the country you lived in, make use of what's coming out of the ground, what's in your lakes or your oceans. Use the best, freshest ingredients, and then you will be really authentic to the area where you're cooking. Whether you're cooking with a French flair, an Italian twist, Chinese, Japanese, by using authentic regional ingredients, you're cooking American. And if you think about it, even the Four Seasons concept, that was 1959.
Yeah.
That's like shockingly, it was 1949. It's the Four Seasons restaurant celebrated its 50th anniversary a few years ago. So if you think about it, he was talking about, food miles and regional cooking way long before anybody else is talking about it, because it's really become regional cooking, food miles has really only come into the lexicon in the past, say, 10, 15 years here in the United States. And he really was the pioneer of talking about cooking with in-season ingredients. But there's also kind of a funny little contradiction, because he also needed to make a living, needed to make money. This is before people had cooking shows where they made a lot of money. Long before Food Network.
Yeah.
So he did not succeed in making money in television. Yes, he wrote 24 cookbooks, but it's making money as a cookbook author even back then was not like it is today. Like baseball players too make a lot of money today. Back then they made very little. So he also really needed to think of other ways to earn an income, and he formed alliances with a lot of corporations. He was involved with Tabasco, with let's see who else, Omaha Steaks.
Oh.
He was GE. He would work with companies and help them develop recipes using their ingredients. So in a way, he also was a realist. Even though he'd say, when you make your dinner tomorrow night, don't open up a can or don't use any processed ingredients. But knowing that they're there, people need to know how to use them. He would do that as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And since we're here in the house, and this is the seat of the foundation, so how is the foundation helping maintain and let people know about his legacy?
Well, the James Beard Foundation was started in 1986, and in fact, Julia Child and Peter Kump were actually sitting in the Peter Kump boardroom. He had founded a cooking school in New York City, over 50 years ago. It's now called ICE, but it used to be called the Peter Kump Cooking School. When James Beard passed away in 1985, as I mentioned earlier, he was a single man. He had no children, no heirs, and he left his estate to his alma mater, Reed College, and also to his editor, John Farone, the editor on all his cookbooks. And they had decided to sell everything off, and they did sell basically everything. And all of a sudden, his friends, Julia and Peter Kump, thought, this house, we should do something in his memory. We can't let them sell the house. Let's buy the house. And that's really how the James Beard Foundation got started. They decided to raise the money. It was about $700,000 back then. Now this house is probably worth more like $6 million. To raise the money, and how did they do that? They formed a foundation and they started doing dinners at the Beard House. Wolfgang Puck did the first fundraising dinner, and it was his idea to charge a lot of money for a set dinner, 5 courses, wine pairings, and it was the beginning of a pattern of Beard House dinners that we still do today. Our foundation hosts about 220 fundraising dinners a year, featuring wonderful chefs from all around the country and even internationally to what we call perform at the Beard House. Julia Child was famous for saying, as Carnegie Hall is to a singer, a performer, the Beard House is to a chef. I don't think James Beard would ever have imagined that there would be a foundation in his name that is celebrating, we're almost on our 28th year. Our mission is to celebrate, nurture, and honor America's diverse culinary heritage through programs that inspire and educate. We do that in several ways, most notably the fundraising dinners we do here at the Beard House. But every spring we have what are considered the Oscars of the food industry, where we really recognize the best chefs, restaurants, the best people in the media, cookbook authors in America at the James Beard Awards. We also have a food conference, an annual food conference, and leadership awards now for the past 3 years that recognize the best people in the country making a difference in making this food world a safer, healthier, more sustainable place. And the food conference is a place where we bring thought leaders together to talk about very important issues of our time: fighting hunger, media and its influence on food, government policy, sustainability, important subjects like that. And we're also very proud of the fact that we give out scholarships to aspiring chefs and restaurateurs. Since 1991, we've awarded over $4.6 million in financial aid to deserving high school students.
To go to
culinary school, wine studies, to pursue even an education in hospitality management. It's really an additional way of our foundation helping build the future of our food industry.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think it's just important to know that we are carrying on his legacy through so many different programs. And the foundation, we have a website. Your students can learn more about us. Just visit jamesbeard.org. Get involved with us. We have student memberships as well. And anybody can come and have a dinner at the beer house, and I can guarantee it's going to be one of the most memorable experiences they can have.
I can testify to that. I've been to some of the dinners, and they're fantastic.
They really are, yes.
Well, thank you so much for having us. And there is already a lot of information in what Susan has told us. You will see in the panel that we organized previously, you will get even more information. But now you really understand why James Beard is such an important element in the history of contemporary American cuisine.